Welcome to the Rebel Tribe podcast. Today's hometown hero is someone doing something pretty extraordinary here in Northwest Arkansas. Melanie Stout Vollmer is the co-founder of the Paws Forward Foundation, an organization dedicated to training service dogs for disabled veterans. These dogs aren't just companions, they're partners in independence, healing, and hope. And as a veteran myself, even though I'm not disabled, I still understand the importance of having that companion. So when I found out about Melanie and Paws Forward, I couldn't wait to get her on the show. So everyone, please meet Melanie. And I think she's got a little dude with her.
I let's see. Can we see tight? There we are.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, not so little, big guy.
Oh yeah, he's definitely a biggin.
Is that Titan? I keep seeing Titan in your posts.
Oh yes, that is Titan. That is Titan. Here, pup.
He is pretty.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, come here.
And so much better behaved than mine.
I love it. I love it.
Can I send you mine for a while? Can I send him to boot camp?
Sure, sure. My kids may never give him back though.
Well, there's days when I think my husband might be okay with that. Let's start with you. Who is Melanie outside of Paws Forward?
Well, I'm a wife. I'm a mom of two kids. Um, Damon is 5, and then our daughter Ava, she's 10. And of course, I'm a veteran. I'm a veteran of the Air Force and of the Army. And I'm also a disabled veteran who knows the struggles of the daily in and outs of what your disability does to you and trying to navigate, you know, daily life with your disabilities and just trying to figure it all out. That's who I am.
You are the only other person I've ever met besides my husband who has been in two different branches of the military because he was Army and then Navy.
Oh,
So,
wow.
hmm,
Wow, that is kind of different. Usually people go like Air Force Army, but I've never heard of Army to Navy. So that's pretty
well,
interesting.
well, he was 82nd Airborne.
Oh,
So,
cool.
yeah. So he had a there was a he had an accident, I guess. Chute didn't open. You're a paratrooper. It's, part of the job. Chute didn't open. Something happened, crashed into a tree. They told him he would never walk again, kicked it, discharged him from the army. But lo and behold, he's a very determined gentleman. And so he's like, not only am I going to walk again, watch this.
Yeah.
So, and so then when he decided he needed to go back into the military, he knew he wasn't going to ever be airborne again. That was never going to happen. So he joined the Navy.
Wow.
So what first sparked your love for dogs? Because I'm assuming if you got to be a dog person to do this kind of work.
I don't know that one, but I would probably say yes. So I guess the love of dogs kind of sparked whenever I was in the military. I got a golden retriever, and she traveled with me from base to base. You know, whenever we had, whenever we were, I guess, like deployed, she didn't go with me, but she understood, like, hey, mom's gone, she'll be back in, however many months. And I mean, she really did it for me. She was just this amazing golden retriever that could reach me deeper than any human ever could. I didn't even have to explain my day to her. She just she kind of just flocked towards me and just gravitated, and it was just this amazing bond that we had. And then um, she she did not have the qualities, I should say, for a service dog. She was just a bebopping around, high energy golden. So when I got out of the military, she she was older, and we had to look at another service dog. And I think that's what really took off, was the second service dog that we inquired about. And just watching him just do everything that I needed as far as taskings and beyond was just incredible. So
Is that what inspired you to start Paws Forward?
no, not necessarily. So when I got out, I had to wait until like the VA actually accepted me, because I didn't get out on a medical discharge, and I didn't retire, from the military. So I had to wait. And once they accepted me, I was struggling with a lot of PTSD, which I didn't even know I even had. And I was also suffering from migraines and from seizures. And so when I got into the VA, there's a couple doctors who are pill pushers, and they pretty much put me into liver failure about 4 times, never once checked my liver. And I looked at my husband and I said, I don't know what else to do. I was like, I can't take any more pills. I'm so done. And that's whenever he started to think outside the box. He was like, well, what about a service dog? I said, they don't make migraine alert dogs. I was like, there's no such thing. And lo and behold, they do. And so when we got our first one, Bane, we tasked him for a migraine alert and for seizure alert. And so from then on, it was like, this is what I need. Like, obviously pills, do help, but there's just times where you just can't take a pill. And like for me, I just can't because my liver's shot. But whenever we went through the VA and we were inquiring about like, hey, can the VA help me pay for a service dog? What's the requirements? They pretty much told me that because I wasn't blind, I wasn't going to get a service dog. And so I basically had to purchase everything on my own. But now the VA has a couple categories that if you fit in those categories, they'll help you pay the veterinary bills for the dog, as long as you go through an assisted dog international program. And so with Titan being the second service dog and him being 7, you have to start thinking about, okay, when do you start searching for like a replacement? Not because I don't want him to be my service dog, but it will take about 2 years to, train one. And so I started asking around these assisted dog internationals, the ones that fit my criteria, and I'm on a waiting list for 6 years. And the reason why is because individuals that are like Purple Hearts or the Bronze Stars or our amputees, not saying that they don't deserve it, they get moved up before me. And so I just keep going down the list. And so I said, I'm going to be dead in 6 years if I don't have another service dog. So that's what kind of led us to getting this foundation going, is helping the veterans here in Northwest Arkansas get a service dog. Sorry, that was a very long story.
No, that's good. People don't understand all the hoops that sometimes we have to jump through. So yeah, 6 years is a long wait.
Oh, yes, yes.
I don't, why was there a moment? I mean, from your own story, it sounds like you have this experience with them. Was that the moment when you really realized that service dogs could like truly change someone's life?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, when we first got Bane and he was tasked for migraines and for seizures, it was that instant like holy cow moment. Like you are legit. Like you are detecting a migraine before I can even, sense it. And my migraines are hemiplegic. So I go stroke like on the left side. I don't have auras. I don't have like a thunderclap like some people do. So mine just come on all of a sudden. And there's no rhyme or reason. There's no like, oh, it's the weather, it's food, it's this, it's that. Like all these doctors want you to, start taking note of. And so he was able to alert me. I was able to either stop what I was doing, go lay down, and basically notify my husband and say, hey, I'm about to have a migraine. I don't know how severe it's going to be on standby. Or he'd be like, hey, I'm leaving work. I'm on my way home. What do you need? In the process. And so it was great to have that comfort because, having Ava at the time and her being a toddler, it was scary because there were times where my husband had to go into the office and I was home alone with her. And I'm like, what if I have a seizure? I don't know if my 3-year-old can dial 911. And if he's able to alert me, sometimes it would be between 30 minutes to an hour before I knew that migraine or seizure was about to hit. I could get things in place. I could let my mom know, hey, I need you to come get Ava. Or I could notify, the paramedics and be like, I'm about to have a seizure. I don't know how severe it's going to be. Is there a way that, we can work something out to where you can come to my house? Or, so it was really nice to have that comfort, just knowing that he was able to detect it. And then when we got Titan and he took over for Bane, we actually tasked him. Oh, sorry, my phone fell there for a second. We actually tasked him to start doing diabetic alert. So love the military. I love how they just kind of destroy you and then the VA just enhances it. But my metabolism, I never run high. Now it's keeping up the blood sugar. So he's able to detect when I'm going to have a low. And he actually beats my Dexcom by 30 minutes. And so it's that sense of comfort, that sense of just, I guess, relief, knowing that if I'm at Walmart or if I'm at, if I'm driving or something and something does, awry where he has to alert me, I know this is what I have to do. This is my protocol. And I'm rest assured that it's just not going to happen while I'm driving type of sense, I guess.
And I assume that your own experience is why you decided to focus on helping other veterans.
Oh, absolutely. I'm tired of having to pull teeth. I am a veteran. I served my country. I did it the best of my ability, and I shouldn't have to pull teeth for these resources. I shouldn't have to be drugged through the mud to figure out that, oh, the VA will help me pay for a service dog. Oh, the VA does provide this. And I'm to the point to where I'm no longer angry. It is to the point of I'm exhausted and I want it to stop with me. I want the pain to stop with me so that other veterans can say, hey, no, no, no. I know that you can pay for a service dog. I qualify for this. I need a service dog. And, or I need resources and I know that you guys have these resources. And that's what's our organization is doing. That's why it's different than any of these other service dog organizations out here. Is we're not stopping at the end of the leash. We're taking it further. We're making sure that those veterans are in contact with correct resources. They're getting what they need. They're aware of, this program, that program, or like, if they need their, I guess, their disability looked at and they're like, man, I really think I'm more than just 20%. We've got other veteran volunteers that have worked for the VHSO's office, and they are willing to help other veterans look at their medical records and say, hey, you've got this qualifies. Let's try to reopen it type of thing.
So what did it look like in the very beginning? I mean, Did you just kind of leap of faith? This is what I'm doing, or was it organized right from the start?
I'm going to honestly say a mixture of both, to be completely honest. So we're still in the brand new launch phase. We haven't fully been around that long. We actually launched, I guess, last December. So last year, but it wasn't necessarily like, hey, this is orchestrated and this is how it's going to look. But it wasn't also just a blind leap of faith. Um, we we know the requirements for the Service Dog Foundation. We know what Assisted Dog International needs, which is very important for the veterans going to the VA to get the veterinary care for the animals. And we also know that this is what a service dog is supposed to do or look like behavioral wise. And the lens coming from the veterans is very important because most service dog organizations come from the lens of a trainer. So they don't understand the true disabilities that a veteran needs. And that's what sets me and the other co-founder, Anthony, I guess in the proper seat is we're like, hey, this is the lens from a veteran, and this is what our service dog organization needs. And so, yeah, so a little bit of mixture of both, yeah.
For people who don't know much about service dogs, because I admit I don't know much about them at all, what exactly does Paws Forward do?
So, Paws Forward. So, what we do is we provide elite, well, quality elite service dogs to disabled veterans, regardless of your rating. You could still be in the service and require a service dog, or you could be, or just a veteran in general. You don't necessarily have to be a disabled veteran at 100% TNP, because disability looks different for everybody, and we're not here to judge you and say, oh, you're not missing a leg, you don't get a service dog. That's not us at all. We understand the invisible and the visible wounds of service. And so what we do is we start these puppies at a very young age. About 8 to 10 weeks is whenever we start them in the service dog program. And what we do is we work alongside our trainer and our socializers, and basically we create this battle hardened service dog who is able to give the veteran their independence and their freedom back, to be able to navigate their darkness where they are. We don't want them to be in the dark, we want them to be in the light. But our dogs are able to go into the dark and bring that veteran out to the light, and for them to be able to live quality lives again.
What kinds of tasks can they do? What can they help with?
Oh my gosh, you name it, we can probably try to figure out a way for that dog to do it. But so we work on psychiatric, which obviously entails like PTSD, anxiety. We help veterans with hearing assistance, with physical and mobility assistance, and we also do medical alerts. We do not do guide dogs because that's a very specific program, and that takes a very specific trainer and dog. And so American Guide Dogs is the only ones that we recommend for that portion. But let's say for scent work, you need a migraine detection, a seizure alert, diabetic. If you've got, if you suffer from panic attacks, maybe you have maybe like a heart condition where maybe your heart rate jumps up really fast, or maybe your blood pressure, drops. That's where like the scent work can come into. For mobility assistance, it could be navigating through the airport. It could be, pulling a wheelchair or retrieving items off the floor or retrieving medication from the counter. Or it could even look like, hey, can you walk in front of me and please go press that handicap button so we don't have to stop? We just keep on going. Um, for PTSD alerts, like Titan, he can find me an exit. With PTSD, anything can trigger it really. I mean, I could be inside of Walmart and have a PTSD attack and just I don't know where I'm at. I get the brain fog and I look at Titan and I tell him, go find me an exit. He'll take me to an exit. It may not be the same exit we came out of, but he will find me an exit to where I can finally breathe and go, oh my goodness, like that was scary. And basically ground myself and then either continue shopping or go, nope, wasn't worth it. We just need to go home now. So you name it, we're gonna try to assist that veteran in any way that we possibly can. So there's tons of taskings a service dog can do.
Wow, I don't know, they sound amazing. Why are they so life-changing for veterans with disabilities or PTSD?
So, and I may get a little teary-eyed, so I apologize.
You're allowed. It's okay.
So with a veteran who suffers from PTSD, anxiety, it's so dark in our world, and they don't judge you. Um, they you don't even have to speak to the dog. It's a bond that you form with your service dog that if you're having a bad day and you're suffering and it's like I don't I don't want to go out in the world today. I just want to lay in bed. They're not going to judge you for that. What they're going to do is they're going to give you the tools that you need to get out of that bed that day. Whether it's I'm here to distract you, I'm here to do pressure therapy, I'm here to give you the sense that you're not alone and I hear you, but it's almost like they're telling you, hey, just get out of bed today. Like let's just make it to the kitchen. Let's take baby steps today. And so it they they touch you deeper than any pill or any human would ever be able to. And it's that silent communication that really does a number for the veteran who is suffering the invisible wounds of war. Sorry. Get a little emotional there.
Yeah, I think you're allowed. I get emotional over my dogs, and I don't even. I'm fortunate I didn't suffer from anything. Yeah, I understand though the bond with your dog. So
Yeah.
what what makes a dog a good candidate for service work?
So I think that's still being debated. I guess it just depends on who you ask. But for our foundation, a good service dog is one that is bred. Um, Take for instance American guide dogs, American vet dogs. They were bred since 1946, and they basically take the Labrador and the Golden Retriever and they breed out the Retriever. So you get this amazing willing to work dog. And so honestly, it's finding the breeders who have puppies that are bred for that line of work, that they can show us, hey, we've produced X amount of service dogs or X amount of therapy dogs, or our dogs are very calm, our dogs they have that will to want to work. That's what makes a good service dog. And then obviously the training and making sure that dog does not develop separation anxiety, which again, it goes back to our organization. We have a rotational socializer program where every so often our puppies go from one socializer to another and then so on and so on. because you might have, six dogs in your house, and I might have zero dogs, but I've got, chickens or, goats and whatnot. And another socializer may have, four kids. And so we want that dog to experience everything. And that's where that battle harden comes into play, is they start to get desensitized to like certain surroundings. And your I would say probably like your method of talking to a dog is way different than mine. One socializer may be like, oh my gosh, it's my puppy, I love you. Another individual might be like, positive reinforcement, but maybe they're not so like, oh my gosh, it's my puppy. So it's definitely learning, like the different avenues of like each person, and just kind of getting acclimated to different households and to different situations. So it's very interesting, whenever you have puppies go through that, because usually whenever a person buys or adopts a dog, it just bonds to that one person. But ultimately, we don't want our puppies to bond to the socializers. We want that puppy and that dog to bond to the veteran whenever the veteran gets, um, you know, is the recipient of our dogs. And so, but we also want the dog to be able to, I guess be desensitized to different types of households. And along that, we may have a socializer who they're very active and they might, be running around doing school activities. And another socializer might be like a retired couple where they might venture to Walmart every now and then. And so it definitely gets that different experience.
And she just heard me tell mine I was going to bust their butts. So
Yeah.
they were being a little too rowdy.
Oh, goodness.
How long does it take to train a service dog?
So it ultimately depends on what the veteran needs the dog to be tasked for. So ultimately, between 18 to 24 months is how long it typically takes um, for a service dog to be trained. But like if an individual like me who needs scent work done, it might take a little bit longer. Or and it all honestly also depends on the dog. So you might get a super smart puppy who is like at 6 months, they're already passing the public access test, and they're like, hey, let's start this. I'm ready to go. You might also have a dog who's kind of like a couch potato who is like, I want to work, but maybe not today that much. So, I mean, it's ultimately up to the dog, but then it's also up to the taskings of that veteran that need the service dog to work on. I hope that makes sense. Yes.
What surprises people the most about training the dogs?
How smart they are. How smart they are. And um, what they can actually do for you. In fact, out in California, they just trained their ever first UTI detection service dog. This dog can detect a UTI 3 days before it becomes bacterial. And that to me is mind blowing. And I mean, it's just, honestly, it's just how smart they are. And it's just, it's mind blowing to watch some of these individuals watch the dogs go through this training and then see them in action. I don't know how many times that we'll be out in public and Titan will start alerting and they're like, what is he doing? And I'm like, oh, my blood sugar's low. And, and I always have my Dexcom on and it's paired to my phone, and I'll show individuals like, see, my blood sugar's 86 and it's pointing down. He's letting me know I need to eat something. And they're just amazed at it. They're like, that's so amazing that he can sense that, because, and for a dog to be able to do like a certain tasking, whether it's picking up a 5 pound weight for a veteran, or you know, retrieving medication from the counter to give to the veteran because they need it. They think it's mind blowing just how amazing these dogs are. And I'm I'm still amazed by Titan half the time. I mean, I know that he's my service dog and he's trained for specific things, but I mean, it still amazes me that he can sense a migraine before it comes. And I'm just like, dude, you're awesome. Like, you are a lifesaver. And, you know, so I mean, that's usually what it is.
How do you match up the dogs and a veteran? I mean, do you match, is there some kind of criteria, or do you let the veteran choose the dog? Does the dog choose their human? How does that work?
So it's kind of, I guess, all the above in a way. So if we have a puppy, and you know, we're taking it through all the obedience, and about 6 months is when we would know which dog would go to which veteran. You know, and obviously the veteran fills out our application, and you know, we get as much information on what does the veteran need on a daily basis for their service dog. And we might have a veteran who's like, I love to go on hikes. You know, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to, you know, live my life. I'm super active. Well, obviously, we may not pair Buddy, who is not a very active service dog, to this veteran. So, obviously, we want to make sure that the energy and the personality of the service dog is what that veteran needs. And so, about like I said, about 6 months is when we would know. And then when we hand over the leash, sometimes the bond is not there. Even though we did our hardest to make sure that this dog and this veteran are paired, sometimes that bond between the human and the dog just doesn't connect. And so it's not that that's a bad thing. It's not at all. It's just, you know, it's a dog and a human connection. And so what we do is we go, okay, wait, we have another dog. We may have to, you know, say like, hey, give us 1 more month to make sure that this dog is trained to your taskings. And then sometimes that pairing just meshes so well. And it's not that the dog that didn't connect with the veteran failed. It's just that, hey, we're just going to have to, you know, maybe move this dog to like a different, you know, veteran. So it ultimately depends on all of those scenarios. But yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, they're dogs. Dogs are going to go wherever they want. I got my one
Yeah.
little Chihuahua that I got for me. It was supposed to be my dog, and it wasn't even the very first day before he quickly decided, nope, I'm Dad's dog.
That's there you go. Exactly. You know, my daughter, she's 10, and she understands what Titan does for me. And every now and then she'll go, "Why doesn't he love me like he loves you?" And I go, "Well, honey, it's because I have a bond with him. Me and him bonded." And I said, and I'm not saying that Titan doesn't love Ava. You know, he'll love on her and things like that, but it's not that bond that she sees with me and Titan. And so she keeps asking. She goes, "Well, I need my own dog now." And I go, "Oh, that's funny." I was like, "No." I was like, "You don't need your own dog." I was like, "When you move out of my house, you can have your own dog." So, you know,
Do you have a story of a veteran and a dog pairing that like really touched your heart?
not from our organization, no. But we do have one from another organization. It was pretty heartfelt. So obviously, I'm going to leave all of the names out of it because I don't know if I am able to share it. But it was we were there to get to know this program, and a veteran who he he refused to accept that he had nerve damage in his legs. So from like waist down, he refused it. He could not accept it at all. And he developed horrible PTSD. It was one of those where he wanted to fight, but his flame was out. And his family saw him struggling, and his wife reached out to this organization, and they said, have him fill out this application, or you fill out this application, in fact. And he filled it out, and he was in one of those like disbeliefs, like dog's never gonna be able to do it for me. Nope, it's all over now. No dog's ever gonna be able to save me. And they worked with this dog. They worked with it, and so typically ADI organizations, they have like these rooms where the human and the dog basically go into a room, and they kind of get to know each other. And like there's toys, and there's like chairs, and the veteran can sit and pet the dog. And so they brought this, I mean, adorable lab in, and he was in his wheelchair, and this lab just walked up to him, placed his head on his lap, and he melted. I am talking, he just started to cry, and he explained to us, he said it was like this relief, just this massive relief. He goes, I don't have to be in silence. He goes, something's happening. He goes, I don't even know how to call it. He goes, if I could, he was like, I would stand up and jump. He goes, but he's like, I can't, so I'm just going to jump with my arms. And this dog got excited, and he was excited. And it was like that instant bond. And that's what you want. And it just, like, I was crying and jumping at the same time, because I was like, this is so cool. I was like, because you receive it on your own. You know what it feels like to receive a dog. And then you watch other people receive a dog, and it's different. It's like, oh my gosh, it's going to be a life changer for you. Like, you automatically know, like, it's going to change their life. But when you have a veteran who is in disbelief, like, nope, never going to work. I'm going to be in this wheelchair forever. It's just, my life is over. And then the dog doesn't say anything and just does what it's supposed to do. And when a veteran describes that, it makes other veterans excited. If that makes sense. I don't know if it does, but it did in my head.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. I mean, yeah. Something that's so, I don't know. Yeah. It makes total sense. You're a nonprofit, so I assume you need all kinds of support. What kind of support do you rely on from the community?
So we rely on donations. We rely on donated puppies. Not saying that breeders don't deserve their money's worth, because we know what it takes to breed these special puppies. We know the hard work that they have to invest, and but we also know that being a nonprofit, we don't necessarily have the funding to fork out $4,500 for this puppy or $2,000 for this puppy. And so we try to partner on that aspect with certain breeders. Like, hey, we may not be able to get a dog from every litter, but if you have a litter and you know that there's one exceptional puppy in that litter, please keep us in your, I guess, like on the forefront of your mind, and please reach out. Of course, in any donation, honestly, all the donations go towards the actual vet care. So we take that responsibility off of the socializer. We do not require the socializer to pay for the vet care, any of the training equipment, or the vest for the dog. That is something that we take care of for our organization. And so any of that amount, helps towards making a vest for a new puppy, or making a vest for the dog, or making sure that they have the proper vet care. And then obviously, um, socializers. There's if you think about being a socializer, anybody honestly can, whether you're working, whether you're retired, whether you're a mom, a stay-at-home mom, whether you have dogs of your own. I mean, we um, we we welcome all socializers into our program to help us raise these phenomenal life-saving um, medical devices for our veterans. So that's pretty much what we rely on.
Yeah, that's how we connected because you put out a call that you needed puppy socializers and
Yes.
I thought about it, but like I said, I already have four dogs and two of them at the moment are adjusting not the greatest. They're
Right.
having a little bit of struggle with the fact that there is a new puppy in the mix. So I was like, yeah, I don't need to bring one more in on top of that. It'll just be chaos. But
Yeah.
I thought about it for a minute. What does it involve? What is being a puppy socializer? What does that involve?
So I really wouldn't call it a puppy socializer, because we don't want to give I guess the false impression that whenever it gets to 6 months, it's no longer a puppy and they can just stop being a socializer. Um, so I know, as much as that would be awesome, we just don't have a facility to accommodate that. But a socializer essentially would basically take in the puppy at 8 to 10 weeks and basically raise it all the way up until we hand it over to the veteran. So sometimes it may look at 18 months, sometimes it may be like a 2 year type of ordeal. But that's essentially what a socializer is. I don't want to say promising. I feel like that's a good word, but I know it's not. But basically saying, hey, this is my commitment. I'm committed to helping, let's do this together. And so, but yeah, I mean, and honestly, it's welcoming that puppy, knowing that you're going to do right by the program, but then also attending our weekly classes that we have, and then also keeping up with that training throughout the week, and also taking it to different um, like different outings, like, oh, we're gonna go eat at this restaurant, we're gonna go sit on the patio, or hey, I gotta go run to Walmart, let's go to Walmart together, or I got a baseball game, let's go to the baseball game. And so ultimately you're basically taking this dog with you wherever you go. We also are partnering with other veteran organizations out there, like Heroes on the Water. Our dogs are going to know like how to get in a canoe, how to stay in a boat. So if the veteran's fishing, we're not jumping out of the boat and turning it over. We're going to be partnering with individuals that like to go hunting. So our dogs know to be, go out in the forest, out in the field. I'm not a hunter, so you have to excuse my lingo there. But be comfortable around different firearms, maybe some, I guess, bows. I think that's what it is, like bow hunting. Yeah, there you go. Um, Individuals that like to go out to Warhorse for equine therapy, they're going to be accustomed to understanding, oh, we can't get too close to the horse, I got to stay over here type of ordeal. So it's honestly just making sure that the socializer is doing what they're supposed to be doing, taking the puppy where they're supposed to be taking. If we have outings as a group, we're going to be doing that. And we do require all of our socializers to go through training classes. It's the humankind, where they learn the do's and don'ts of being a puppy raiser. So we set them up for success. We're setting the dog up for success. And then they also are required to go through a trauma course, because some of our socializers are going to be veterans that are suffering from PTSD or MST. And so we want them to be aware of what trauma looks like, and that it's not a one size fits all, and certain things that you can't say, like, oh, why are you acting this way, type of thing. And so, and then at 6 months, they're actually going to be starting to interact with the veteran, and we don't know what that veteran, has went through. We don't know what type of trauma, that veteran per se has at this moment. But we want our socializers to just basically have that knowledge of, this is how I need to act. This is how it looks like, and this is what not to say to a veteran who is suffering.
If someone listening wants to help, what are some of the best ways that they can support your mission?
So obviously, number one is just getting our name out there. Just being like, hey, did you know that there's this Paws Forward Foundation, Northwest Arkansas, that provides service dogs to disabled veterans, service members, and did you don't have to necessarily be a 100% disabled veteran to receive one of these life-saving service dogs, or hey, how can we come together as a community? What can we help you with? Is it maybe showing up for one of our fundraisers that we've got coming up in a couple of weeks, or just honestly just spreading our name out. I mean, obviously we're never going to turn down a donation, but honestly, it's the community support that we need. That's honestly, I think, the biggest thing is the community support. Understanding that if they see one of our Paws Forward's vest on one of the dogs and it says service dog in training, just know not to like shun or turn the socializer and the dog and or puppy away. Just know that we're there to train, and the socializer is representing us, and the dog is representing our foundation. So we're definitely not going to have unruly, defecating animals everywhere, but there are bad days. So I don't want to like give that misconception like, oh, the puppy peed, you said it wasn't going to pee, but just know that we're doing our due diligence to make sure that we're doing the right thing in the community, and we just need the community support.
Yeah, that still amazes me. I have a friend with a guide dog, and it still amazes me, despite the law and despite the fact that service dogs and guide dogs are pretty well, they're known what they are, she still runs into, you can't bring your dog in here. Or if they do let it in, it's because they had to, and then, she's just treated differently. It's not
I
right.
know. Well, I think a lot of that is because there's so many fake service dogs now, where people are, no offense to anybody listening, but they bring in their Yorkie and they put it in the Walmart shopping cart, and they're like, oh, this is my service dog. And it's like, okay, like, let's have a conversation. Like, what, So there's so many fake service dogs out there that it's hard for people that are actually needing real service dogs, like your friend that needs their guide dog. You can't fake a guide dog. I'm gonna be honest with you. You can't fake that. There's so much training involved, and I think it's amazing, just what they do for their handler, because the handler is basically relinquishing like all of their control to this dog. Like, this is it, like, you're in charge, like, I can't see, like, I am relying on you to get me to point A to point B. And the training that they have to go through is phenomenal. And it sucks. It sucks for people out there that really have a service dog and are basically, oh, that's not a real service dog. Yeah, it is. Like, it's legit. I promise you. So I honestly think that's just what it is, and it just sucks. And I think until the community comes together and city officials and like governors and, top dogs come together and go, okay, we really need to sit down and we need to start looking at the laws of what is a service dog versus a therapy versus an emotional support dog. Where do you start cutting those lines at? And, saying, you know, um, this is what it is, this is what it's not. And I mean, I I don't know how many times I have been told that an ESA is a service dog, and I'm like, no, it's not. Like, all it is a glorified pet, and it's like it doesn't have a tasking. It has to have taskings. And if you look at like the ADA accommodations, and I can totally geek out on this, and I apologize, but if you look at the ADA accommodations, it clearly says that a service dog must be on all fours. And so all four paws have to be on the ground at all times. And so whenever I see these individuals in strollers or shopping carts or in the arms of their handler, that's where you start to question, is it truly a service dog or is it an emotional support dog? And it only has rights inside their home or public places like a dog park or, a park, or dog friendly places like Petco or PetSmart. So yeah, that's a big subject. I know. It's a big subject.
Oh, I know we could discuss that for a while because I do have I'm going to make a plug for the Yorkies of the world. So, but yeah, no, yeah, yeah, I have some personal experience, not from myself, but from someone very close to me who had, I'm going to call it her emotional support cat,
Oh,
because she went through so much trauma in her life, and that cat was her, yeah. So I will never look down on someone who says they have an emotional support animal, because I saw what that cat did for her. I don't know that she would have made it without that cat. So, but yeah, I do understand the difference between an actual service dog and an emotional support. I get it.
yeah. Which I mean, I'm all for individuals who don't need a service animal per se, but need that companion to be at home whenever they get home from work and they're just having a horrible day at work because their boss, just yelled at them for 8 hours a day. And that's different. I am all for that because animals in general just they give you something and they don't ask for anything in return, and that's what I love. But the ones, I guess, where I have issues is the ones that try to bring them out in public and try to rip, service dog faces off. I couldn't tell you how many times Titan has been attacked. Will be In fact, when we went through service dog training, he was attacked by two doodles who were in the service dog program. Were immediately told, nope, you failed, it can't be a service dog. Or a German shepherd tried to rip his face off, and thank goodness he was never traumatized by that. And or like when we go to the VA, individuals will try to bring their ankle biters. Or there was a there was a veteran who had a pit bull and slapped a service dog vest on this pit bull. And we got off the elevator, and Titan looked at me and wouldn't move. And I go, "Ugh, why are we not moving?" And he saw this pit bull, and this veteran is like trying to hold him back. And I mean, this veteran's quite frail. And I'm like, oh, geez. I'm like, there's one way in and out of building 21. I was like, I don't want to walk all the way down and around, because I was like, my body just can't handle it. And so we, I told Titan to go to the other side, and we were, wedging ourselves. And, you know, some of the volunteers were looking at this guy, this veteran with the pit bull, and they go, Does he not like dogs? And this veteran openly admitted, oh no, he hates dogs and he hates other animals. And I'm like, then why are we bringing this dog into the VA? Like, you know, and so it's like if that dog would have gotten loose, I don't know what I would have done. Hopefully, I would have been able to intervene and it not attack Titan, but man, me and Anthony could tell you horror stories that our dogs have gone through, and it's just that is the aspect of the ESAs that I don't like is the ones that they try to bring out in public but aren't conditioned to be out in public per se. But sorry for that little rant. I apologize
That's
for that
okay.
one.
Not hey, I totally get it. Not every dog is trained to be out in public. I mean, I know. I know. There's a dog out here where I live where his owners don't really take care of him and
Oh,
they let him run. And there's many mornings when I will go out on my porch and he's in my yard and I'm like, yeah, I cannot go to my car. I cannot go to my mailbox. I can't because he should not be allowed to be running free.
oh
And
goodness.
I've complained. I've complained to the sheriff and I've complained to the owners and I've complained to everybody. And yeah, and another person who lives out here with us has told me that she was out walking her dogs one day and he attacked her and her dogs,
Oh, mm-mm.
so it's like, so yeah, I get it. There are dogs out there that have no business being around other dogs or other people. We know.
Yeah.
So, so it's a learning, trust me, it's a learning experience. What has this journey taught you about people?
Oh goodness. But there is no one size fits all whenever you talk about disability. And so I think that is a really big eye opener for me. There's also a lot of evil in this world, and unfortunately, we are seeing individuals who are, I don't want to use the word lying because I feel like that's maybe too much, but it's not that they're lying to get a service dog. It's that they don't have the necessary disability to qualify for a service dog. They just want a service dog so they can just have a very well trained pet at home. But they don't ever want to go anywhere with the dog. And so I'm learning that, and that it disheartens me because I sit there and I'm like, wait, I'm like, so you're claiming that you need a service dog, but you go to X, Y, and Z, but you don't want to take your service dog with you, even though it's trained to be a service dog for you, because it's too much of a burden to load in and out of the car. It's almost like, wait, that is not right at all. And that that is a very big eye opener for me and Anthony. And then and then also there's such a need. It saddens me so much to see the overwhelming need for service dogs in Northwest Arkansas. There's so many veterans out there, and I hate to use the word broken. Like I hate that word because I'm like you're not broken. Your nervous system is just wired different right now, and but if you talk to like therapists or doctors, they love to use that word broken. But I'm learning that there's such a need in Northwest Arkansas alone that these poor veterans just need help. These service women and men just need help, and their light is going out, and it makes me so sad because I'm like, no, no, no. I'm like, just hang on. I'm like, hang on. Your light will come back. I promise. I promise you. Just just stay with me. Like, just stay with me. Don't let it go out. And I'm learning that they're tired of fighting. They fought when they were in, they fought for their disability. They're constantly having to fight, and they're just tired. They're just so tired. Um, I have a female veteran who, me and her, we went to high school together. And I joined the Air Force. She joined the Army a year later. And, our career paths took us in two different places. And her service was different than mine. And we reconnected because it was our 20th year reunion for Springdale High School. And my mom went to go see her because she had a doctor's appointment where she worked. And my mom was like, "You need to connect with Melanie." And so she texts me and she goes, "Oh, I saw your mom today." And I was like, "Who is this?" I'm like, "How'd you get my number?" And, so started chatting, and she goes, "I don't want to leave my house." I have to take 5 pills in the morning just to get to work. I have to take 3 pills during the day at work just to survive. And I go, "Girl, why are you not on disability?" And she goes, "Because I have to prove. I have to prove that I encountered this trauma." And I said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa." I was like, "Are you talking about MST?" And she's like, "Yes." And that's what really irks me to the point to where it's like, I'm sorry. We went through this trauma. We shouldn't have to prove to you. And I can't. I'm not in a place to even want to go through it, and I don't ever want to go through it again. She's like, "But in order for the VA to raise up her disability, she has to prove it." And I'm like, but it's that struggle that I see, and it hurts me because I feel her pain. Being an MST survivor myself, I know her pain. I see it. I hear it in her voice, and it's like one of those, like, "I can help you. Just don't give up on me." And she said maybe one day she'll get a service dog, but she's like, right now, she's like, I'm not in a good state mentally. And it hurts because there's a part of me that just wants to, like, run to her and, like, grab her and just give her the biggest hug and be like, "You're not alone." And then there's a part of me that is the veteran, and it's like, can't cross that boundary. Because there's a lot of veterans out there that they don't want you to acknowledge that they're wounded per se. And it's also hard because I'm not a hugger, never was. And so it's bringing a lot of emotions out on myself. Getting to know, like, these individuals out here in Northwest Arkansas. Apologize again, I get emotional. So,
Hey,
but
I understand. Like I said, retired myself. I get it. I don't have a lot of the experience that many of you's had. I was in I was in well before women were allowed to go into any form of combat or anything. So but still, I totally get it. It's not easy. It's not an easy life.
no, it's not. No. But one of the things that I think I forgot to mention, or I failed to mention, so in those categories that we provide service dogs to veterans, we also provide service dogs to MST survivors. And they're in their own category, even though the VA would lump them underneath psychiatric. MST survivors and PTSD survivors, in my opinion, I feel like are completely different. Because you want to be able to give that female veteran their sense of security, sense of safety, sense of independence, that Um, they're going to be able to walk out their door and they have this life-saving tool and they feel safe. Not necessarily that a female veteran needs like this gigantic, like growling, scary looking dog. Um, but we want to be able to help the women who have suffered MST and be able to give them that sense of security. And having Titan, I'm gonna be honest with you, I kind of have a backbone when it comes to encountering doctors or individuals out in the public. It Before Titan, I wouldn't engage. If somebody said, this is what it is, this is your answer, I'd be like, okay, that's fine. Like, whatever. Like, I don't want to argue with you or whatever. But having Titan, it kind of gives me that sense like, no, I think you're wrong. Like, I don't think that's the right answer you're giving me. Almost like he is, kind of like he's like that backbone that's like, hey mom, you've got your backbone, you can stand up for yourself now, like I'm here for you. I may not bite and growl, but if you need me, I'm only a pet away. Like I'm gonna help you, mom. And that's what we want to be able to offer these MST survivors, is that sense of, I guess, a sense of comfort, really, knowing that they've got someone in their corner for them. you know You getting hot? I'm sorry, buddy.
So what keeps you going on the hard days?
Oh gosh. Um, so me personally, when I have a hard day or a bad day, just knowing that I've I've got I've got to take care of him. I have to let him out. I have to feed him. Um, I may not necessarily brush him on a daily basis, but I've I've got a medical device that if I don't take care of it, it's not going to function the way that it was supposed to function for me. And so, um, but when we're having a bad day, and let's say that we're getting rejected, like we're having a fundraiser and nobody really shows up, or we're trying to get sponsors, for our upcoming puppies that are going to be born, and we're just getting told nope, or nope, we don't want to help you, or we don't see a benefit in this. We kind of have to look at it like it's okay. It is okay to be told no, because we know that whenever it rains, it's going to pour, and we know that eventually we're going to find those sponsors or those donors that are just going to flood us with just what we need. And whether it's crates for the socializers, because we've got disabled veterans who want to help out, but they don't know what to do, but they know that being a socializer gives them the sense that, hey, I'm doing something to better myself and to better another veteran, but maybe they can't afford a brand new crate from Petco. And we might have a donor who's like, hey, I've got 5 crates in the back, they're a little banged up, but can you guys take those? And we're like, absolutely. And so, and then just knowing that eventually those dogs are going to go to a veteran, and it's going to be a life changer, and it's going to change just everything about them. So it's hard to look at the small hard day, but then we kind of have to step back and look at the good day, the overall good day, and be like, this is our end goal. It's okay. So just, and I also want to say resiliency. Yeah, resiliency. Yeah. Because that's what we were trained for in the military, is to adapt and overcome. But
That's for sure.
yeah, just, I know. I mean, I hate using those terms because, I tell Anthony all the time, I'm like, ugh, I'm like, why do we have to keep using the terms that we got in the military? And he goes, well, because we're veterans. I'm like, I know. Um, but just being resilient and just, I guess, thinking outside the box. Like, you know, we're we're actually we're partnering with a rescue, um, a local rescue here, and we're lo and behold, me and her went to high school together. We played t-ball since we were like six together, and I went military. She didn't, and somehow we ended up, coming into contact. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, small world. And so we're we're trying to help this rescue. They're trying to help us, especially for like transportation purposes. We've got a couple of puppies in Florida and up in, I'm gonna butcher it. I think Sweetgrass, Montana. Yeah, somewhere up there. And I'm like, dude, I'm like, my back is shot. Like, I can't make it a 30-minute drive without just rolling out of my car crying, going, my back hurts so bad. And just trying to find individuals that I'm like, hey, are you going on vacation to Florida? Do you mind bringing a puppy dog back with you? Like, can we make this work? Like, I'll give you gas money, So, just trying to figure out ways that we can get these puppies, to our organization and then trained and then to our veterans. So, just trying to think outside the box on that too. So, yeah.
No. Yeah. Did not know that. Keep me in mind. I travel a lot. Let me know.
Ooh, I
I'll
like
pick up a
that.
I'll pick up a dog and bring it back for you. Can't like I said, can't socialize because my two little chihuahuas are like they're they're having a very hard time adjusting to the newest edition, and I wouldn't want to overwhelm them with, well, okay, here's
Oh,
one more for you. So,
absolutely not.
but
Absolutely not. But with our socializers, we are also developing kind of a, I guess, like two additional things. So we're developing what's called like a weekend socializer, where let's say, this veteran, or I'm sorry, not this veteran, but like a full-time socializer might need to go out of town for a weekend. And as much as we would love the puppy to go with that veteran, I mean, with that socializer, oh my goodness, I cannot talk today. With that socializer, we would like to have the puppy stay local in case something happened and, they had to rush it off to like an emergency vet. Because we've partnered with a veterinarian here who is gonna help us take care of our dogs in the program. So that's where the weekend socializer might come in. Where a weekend socializer is like, yeah, I would love to have a puppy for a weekend, almost like a grandparent. I'm gonna love on it and I'm gonna give it back to you, right? And
I'm gonna
or
spoil
let's
it
just
rotten and then I'm gonna send it back.
exactly. Or maybe, they're like, hey, my kids really want a dog. Can we borrow your puppy just to see how they do? I don't know. There's always ways to think outside the box. Or I love my friend who she joined the Marines because she's a badass. I went Air Force, she went Marines. But she's like, I just lost my oldest little it was I'm gonna butcher it and she's gonna take offense to it, I know, and I apologize. But I think it was like a Chiweenie kind of dog. Oh my gosh, this was her world, this dog. She put it through cancer treatment and everything. Um, and she goes, I'm not ready to be a full-time commitment socializer just yet. She's like, I'm still mourning my my lovely little dog. And I go, hey, I respect that. And she goes, what if I just want to borrow it? And I go, hey, you can borrow it any day. I was like, maybe, you're like, hey, I've got, 3 hours on Saturday. I would love to go take it to Lowe's and I'm going to go work on this at Lowe's with it. And so that's always an option too. Just, I don't want to say like check out a puppy because that sounds horrible, almost like a library. But That's essentially like what it would be, is you're just kind of checking out a puppy to help the full-time socializer make sure that you're checking off those boxes. Like, hey, we went here, we've done this, we've battle hardened for you for this. So there's always options to help out. You know, there's never too small and there's never not enough. So we welcome everything. Yeah,
It's good to know. Good to know.
yeah.
You hear that? I'm gonna send you guys off to be service dogs if you don't start behaving.
I love it. I love it.
I don't know, maybe a couple of little feisty chihuahuas.
Hey
I have
now.
never had a small dog ever, really. And then I had my Yorkie and then I had he died. He had cancer and he passed
Oh.
and he died on my lap at home because I can't see to drive very well, so I couldn't get him to the vet. My husband was out of town. I couldn't get him to the vet. I could tell that he was not well, but I couldn't get him to the vet in time, and he passed on my lap that night. And it was like, oh my God. So I had that. And then I had COVID on top of that. So I was like
Oh,
just
yes.
struggling bad between the COVID recovery and losing my dog and being home alone when I lost my dog. So it was just like, and then my
Yeah.
husband took me, he's like, you got to get out of the house. You got to get out of the house. So he took
Yeah.
me up to Pinnacle and we were just walking across the parking lot. And here comes this guy with all these little chihuahuas on leashes.
Oh my
I'm like,
goodness.
did we miss, was there like a dog show or something going on? What? So I
Oh my
stopped
goodness.
to ask him because they all had little suits on and things. And I stopped to ask him. And he's like, no, he breeds them. He's a breeder. He says, but he takes them out on to travel and stuff just so that to get them used to being
Yeah.
around and be socialized. Well, in the meantime, of course, one is just kind of looking at me with the eyes, and I pick him up, and as I'm holding him, my husband's like, "You can have him if you want it."
Oh, I love your husband. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
But I
Oh,
I have no experience with anything as small as it, and all the TikTok videos. I'm here to tell you, all of the TikTok videos you see about Chihuahuas, they're all true. Okay.
it's all true. It's all 100% true. I could testify. Yes.
Yes.
Oh my
So
gosh, I
they're
love it.
they
I
they
love
are
it.
a handful, and we're adapting. But then, like I said, that the rescue that over in Town was looking for someone to take their little blind Aussie, and I'm like, okay, fine.
You're like, fine.
I have experience with blind dogs. I've raised two of them. I will take the blind puppy
Oh, I love it.
who's not blind, who's just had an eye infection, and he's a herd dog, which it kind of bothers me when you were talking about these people that have the service dogs and then don't really use them, because I have seen personally what that does to the dog. This is what they do. They're trained for this. We found
Yes.
somebody let him go. We found him, and he was there was people. Some my husband found him. Some people were actually getting ready to kill him, and my husband intervened. And he
No.
called me. He said, "Come get this dog." He's like, "Some people down here were getting ready to kill it, and I got him. He said, come get him, and we'll just take him to the shelter." So I went to take him to and the shelter was closed. It's like, okay, fine. I'll take him home, I guess. I didn't know what else to do with him. I was a little leery because he was a red healer. And I was like, man, big dog. I don't know
Yeah.
how I was going to do, but I'll take him home.
Mm.
And I watched him. You could tell he had been trained. He was a herd dog. You could tell he had been trained to do that. He was herding my cats.
Oh my gosh, so cute. So
I
cute.
called my husband. I said, "We're not taking this dog I said, "This dog is not going to the shelter." He says, "Why?" I said, "We got to try and find its owner. This dog has been very well trained. This dog is a herd dog." He's like, "How do you know?" I said, "Because it's herding the cats." And the cats
Yeah.
are not pleased. But we
Oh,
never did find its owner, but we kept him. But I don't have anything for it to herd, so I could tell it would try to hurt the cats. It would hurt the grandkids. It would hurt anything. It would try so hard. You could tell that this is what it was bred to do. And I
yeah.
felt so bad because like you're you're bred to do this thing and you can't. You're not being allowed. Why would you do that to a dog? I mean, I don't know. We tried very hard to find its owners. I don't know if they let it go. She had seizures. She had seizures bad. So I don't know if they just let it go because she had seizures
Oh,
or what, but it's just like, it frustrates me when people, these dogs are trained to do a job and that's their
correct.
thing. That's their life. It's like, you don't take that. That's what they know. You don't take that away from them. If you're not going to
No.
let them do their job, then let it go to somebody who will.
Yeah.
So,
And that's what makes me, like I think your question whenever you said like what's it teaching you about humans? That's that's one of the most disheartening things is um Anthony, he got his dog for American Vet Dogs, and the trainer there said if you're not willing to take your dog into the grocery store, even if though it's like a 2 second trip, or if you're not willing to take it into a doctor's appointment with you, you don't need it. Like, let us know now so we can, take the dog back and we can give it to a veteran who needs, that service dog for that 2 second trip into Dollar General or whatever. And so it just it saddens me because they don't, as one breeder would put it, she's all for service dogs. She produces service dogs and therapy dogs left and right. And whenever we were talking to her, I think that was one of her questions. Is she said her puppies that go on to be service dogs or therapy dogs don't get to be a puppy. Like they don't ever get to know what a puppy is supposed to do. They only know what is work. Like, this is my job now. This is what I'm supposed to, basically grow up and do. And so that also hurts me to know that these individuals that are just getting service dogs because they just want a well-behaved dog at home, it's like they didn't get to have a normal little puppyhood, or as our trainer would call it, the rebellious teenage years of being a of a dog. They're completely different. They just kind of skip all that. And so it hurts to hear your story, because it it is it's people just cast out these dogs like, oh, you're done, you're having seizures now, I have no use for you, go, we're just gonna dump it or whatever. And it's like, no, you can always find something else for these dogs to do. Whenever when we retired Bane at the age of 9, he didn't stop working. It was like his spirit kept working even though his body was so old. But we still gave him a job to do. Like, hey, your job this morning is to go get those kids out of bed. Like, let's go. And we started tasking him to start barking. So he would bark at these kids in bed, and the kids would be like, "Shut it up! We're up! We're up!" And I'm like, "You gotta get out of bed, and you gotta give him a cookie in order for him to be quiet." So we just found something else for him to do.
yeah,
So
that's kind of what we did end up keeping the red heeler, and yeah, that's kind of what it did. It became my granddaughter's like companion when she was here because she came over and just fell in love with him. I was a little leery at first because she's got him like right around the neck, and it's, oh my God, this dog is so big, But I'm watching, and she just grabs it around the neck and lines it up, and then she was so tiny she would lean up against it and then just fall backwards and
aw,
knock him over, and then the dog would lay down and she would lay down with her head on the dog, and that's how they would sleep. I was like, okay, that's your job. You're my granddaughter's dog. You're her dog when she's here. You're her companion. You're her guard dog, whatever.
I
But
love
yeah,
it.
it gave her something to do. It gave him a purpose.
Yeah.
So he stopped trying to herd my cats.
Oh my goodness, I bet your cats were like, "Oh, thank goodness!" Like, whoo. I love it though. I love stories like that, to just hear, I love those stories because it just, to me, it's like they never want to stop. We just fail them as humans, and so it's just, it makes my heart just melt just hearing your story. It just makes my heart so happy. So
Oh, I'm a crazy person for dogs. All of my dogs, except the Chihuahuas, are rescues because, and where I live, I live at a drop-off point, basically. I live at the
Oh,
far end of a private dirt road. I'm a drop-off point. So people bring them out here and turn them loose and let them go. So
that's
I have had all kinds of animals out here that have been just injured, abused, lost, dropped off, whatever. And the rule has always been if you find my house and I give you a name, that's it.
that's it. You're done. This is where you stay.
Yep. If you find my house and you get named before you move on, you get to stay.
Oh, I love it. I love it though. I love it.
Makes it a little difficult. We have a house full sometimes, but anyway. So if a veteran listening right now is struggling and just because we both know, I mean, like I said, I have not had it nearly as I have not had it anything like some of you. When I was in, women were still fairly sheltered. We were not allowed to ride combatant ships. I was Navy, and we were not allowed to ride combatant ships. We were not allowed to, we were pretty isolated, but still, even so, it is not an easy life. So I can't imagine being in now. I can't. It would be very difficult, I think. So if there's a veteran out there listening right now that doesn't feel like anyone else understands, it's kind of like it's like a private exclusive club. Let me tell you, nobody quite gets it.
Mm-mm.
What would you want them to know?
Oh gosh. Okay, I'm gonna try to save the waterworks until the very end, so I'm not from blubbering. Just blah, 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 Um, I would have to say I have been where the world goes entirely dark too. I know what the nightmares look like. I know how exhausting it is to carry that weight of your service day in and day out. Um, I know what the struggle looks like. I know that the feeling of, being a burden to your family or being a burden to your loved ones. I know that feeling. Um, but you're not broken. You're not alone. Your nervous system is just injured right now, and it's through no fault of your own. And you shouldn't have to go on this journey by yourself, even though you think that being alone is better for everyone around you. It's not. I want you to stay. Please stay for me. Reach out. I've got a tether, and I'll throw you that tether, and we'll walk together. It may not be the most glamorous walk. Um, it may be a little bumpy, but we will definitely walk together. Um, I just, they just need to know they're not alone. That there is hope at the light of the end of the tunnel. And I say that because I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for my husband and for Titan. Um, being a veteran with PTSD and being an MST survivor, you don't, it's not like the military goes, hey, this is what your symptoms are going to be like whenever you get out, or this is what you're going to experience while you're in service. It's not like you get a handbook on it, believe me. And so whenever I got out, I was in denial. Like, nope, it's not PTSD. Nope, it's not this. I kept my MSTs to myself because I said, I was honestly, I was ashamed. I was like, oh no, I was like, this is bad, this is bad. And, I pushed my husband away. I kept pushing him. I pushed my daughter away. And then finally, like I said, when my husband reached out about a migraine alert dog, that's whenever it started to change. That's whenever I saw that I was able to reach to my husband and I was able to say, this is what happened in the service. And can we walk together? Can you help me heal? Can we please mend what was damaged? And so between him, Bane, and then Titan, it was all a game changer. There was light at the end of the tunnel. I wasn't alone. I didn't push anybody away. I tried to understand, okay, this is what happened. It's not a fault of my own. This is just something that happens when you're in service, and this is how we're gonna heal together. And so, going back to Paws Forward, it's our slogan is healing those who served. We want to heal as a community. We want to heal as an organization, and we 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 want everyone to find their healing, and everybody's healing is different. My healing would look different than a bunch of my friends in the service, or mine and Anthony's healing is different. So it definitely is it's a journey, and I'm here to take that journey with everyone. And that's just, like I said at the beginning, I want it to stop with me. I want them to know that there's resources, there's avenues out there for you, that we will do everything that we can to help you heal. Just know that, reach out, and we'll reach back out to you.
Melanie, thank you so much for being on here today and for sharing the story behind Paws Forward. Uh, what you're doing for veterans and the service dogs, it's powerful. It really is. So it's just one of those reminders that the smallest things sometimes, like you said, a head on a lap, a tail wag, a companion, it can change someone's entire life.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I appreciate you having me on your podcast today. I was, if you would have like asked me whenever you first reached out, I was jumping for joy. I was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And then I was like, wait, I've never been on a podcast before. I'm like, what is this? I was like, oh my gosh. So my husband's like, he's like, just have a conversation. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. I'm awkward. I'm a veteran. I was like, we don't have conversations. So, you know.
But it's two, yes, because we are veterans. We're two veterans talking to each other, and that's all it was. We're just two old veterans talking to each other. Bumpy is part of the. We do Bumpy really well. We know
Exactly.
Bumpy, okay?
Yep. Right on. Yep. So, all right. Well, I appreciate everything. I really do. So,
Well, this is exactly why I love doing these Hometown Heroes episodes, because there are amazing people in all of our communities doing really meaningful work every day, and y'all
yeah.
deserve to have your stories heard. So if you'd like to hear more about Paws Forward, want to support their mission, or find out how you can help, whether that's volunteering, being a socializer, donating, I will make sure to include the links in the show notes so you can connect with Melanie and her team. And as always, if you enjoyed this episode of the Rebel Tribe, please share it with someone who loves dogs, supports our veterans, or just believes in the power of people helping people. So until next time, keep using your voice, keep supporting those heroes around you, and keep building a life on your own terms.